Okay, the time is 7:38, and I'll call this meeting of the mayor and council to order. All members of the mayor and council are present. Today is Monday, April 22nd, 2013. This is a regular business and public hearing of the mayor and council, City of Snellville. First, we have our invocation. If I could have a moment of silence. We lost two great people last week, Lynn Brack and also Mayor Nunley from the city of Loganville. So if we can have a moment of silence for both of their families. Thank you. Now for tonight's announcements. On April 23rd, tomorrow, there will be a Planning Commission meeting, a 7 p.m. work session, and a 7:30 p.m. meeting. Tomorrow, there will also be a Snellville Entrepreneur Summit from 6:30 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. You may register through the city's website or by calling 770-985-3502, but registration is limited. May 4th and 5th will be the 40th Annual Snellville Days Festival. May 4th will kick off with a parade at 10 a.m., which will begin on Wisteria Village and end here at City Hall. And the festival will be at Briscoe Park from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Sunday, May 5th, the festival will be at Briscoe Park from noon until 5 p.m. There'll be free parking and free admission. Come enjoy the BMX show, Wildlife Windy, Tropical Birds, along with local and paid entertainment during the festival. But we're still looking for volunteers, so if you don't have anything to do Saturday or Sunday, please call the Briscoe Park office and volunteer 770-985-3535. On May 5th, you can watch a rebroadcast of this meeting on Comcast Channel 25 at 6:30 p.m. And on May 10th, we'll have a blood drive from 1:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. in the community room. To learn more about blood donation opportunities, visit www.redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS. May 13th, we'll have our regular scheduled council meeting, a 6:30 p.m. work session, and a 7:30 p.m. meeting. The May 14th Board of Appeals meeting has been canceled, and so has our second meeting in May, May 27th. And that concludes our announcements. Thank you. Now for the pledge to the flag, if I could have forward. Is it? Under ceremonial matters, our presentation will be postponed until the next meeting. I now have minutes from the April 8th, 2013 business and public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by raising your right hand. 6 in favor. All those opposed? 0 opposed. The minutes stand approved. We have no invited guests tonight. Now for our committee and department reports, we have Chairman Joe Williams for the Planning Commission.
Good evening. We had a meeting on the 26th of March in which we had 3 cases. The day before, one of the cases withdrew. The day after, another case withdrew, and the only case that y'all will be hearing about is the Jiffy Lube on Ronald Reagan, and we recommended it to be approved with the staff recommendations. Any questions?
Mr. Williams, one of the cases that withdrew was at the Barnyard Flea Market on Rosebud?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and so that's not coming back in for us at any time.
No.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Williams? Thank you, sir. We now have a report from Lisa Platt, our Director of our Parks and Recreation.
Good evening. I just have a couple of things. Wanted to update on the fitness equipment. There's a few photos that we finally got it installed. The weather really postponed us quite a bit trying to get the cement slabs down, but all 5 pieces are up and running, and it's been getting quite a bit of use, all the pieces, so everybody has been using them and getting used to them and liking them. And I would like to also give a big thanks to the Public Works Department, because they really helped us in the coordination and the use of their staff and getting the slabs done and some of their expertise. So I really appreciate Public Works helping us. As I said, all 5 slabs are in, and the pieces of equipment are really getting used. So thank you for all your work with that, Mayor, and getting that in. I'm sure the public really appreciates it. The Park Advisory Board, we met on April 2nd. We really only had one issue that we kind of discussed. We've always had quite a bit of use at the lake with the ducks and the geese. Kind of becomes a maintenance issue on some items, and we get some complaints regularly about the sidewalks being a mess and the vegetation not being as pretty as it could be. So we had a company come to us. They have a vending machine, so to speak, that has food in it that is good for both duck, the geese, and the fish. And basically they put a quarter in and they get a handful of food, and there's instructions on how to use it. It also, they put up some signs giving instructions that actually bread and popcorn and some of the things that many people come to the park and throw out really isn't good for the wildlife. It ultimately doesn't give them the nutrition that they need, and therefore they end up either dying or getting different kinds of diseases that they wouldn't need to. So the partnership with this company, they came and talked to the board. Basically the company comes in, puts in the machines. Right now we have 4 machines in. They install them, they put up the signage, they come refill them. If there's vandalism or if they break, we call them, they come fix it. So basically there's nothing on park maintenance side of it or staff with these machines. The agreement with them is that any revenue that comes will be split 50-50 and can go back into the park. So the board really felt that it was kind of a win-win. There's nothing on our end. If we don't like them or they don't work, we call them, they come back, and they take them out. So that was really the big issue that the board addressed in our last meeting. The only other thing that will come about from this is that we will need to change. There's one section in the ordinance that pertains to the lake and the feeding of the wildlife. We'll have to alter that just a little bit. So we're in the works of doing that, and eventually that'll come to the mayor and council for approval once we make it's really just the second half verbiage just needs to be changed. But short of that, that was the big issue that we talked about. There wasn't anything else from the Parks and Rec Board that came out of that meeting. Is there any questions about this that I can answer, or it's pretty straightforward, really? As I said, there's nothing from the city standpoint that we're doing at this point that needs to go in with that, short of deciding whether we like it or don't like it. And usually it takes between 2 to 4 months to figure out if it's going to work or not work. So, and they just went in about a week ago.
Questions for Lisa?
Yes, Lisa, just 2 questions. Within the county and the county parks, I noticed that they put out signs that you just don't feed the ducks. Mm-hmm. Seems pretty standard throughout the entire county with the park system. Was any consideration given to that? I mean, as far as...
That is how our ordinance reads now, and because we cannot back it up, the Parks and Rec Board really felt like we had something in on the books, so to speak, but with no enforcement. Mm-hmm. It really wasn't a solution. Okay.
2 other questions. Mm-hmm. Liability if someone besides a duck eats that food.
It's
I know that sounds crazy, but kids will be kids, yes, and I mean, do we have?
Even if a child eats it, it's it's all.
I hope it's biodegradable.
Yeah, no, it's obviously meant specifically for wildlife, but there's nothing in it that I don't know really how to word it. I asked that same question, and it is perfectly edible for humans.
Okay.
Probably not great for us to eat, but...
Did they give us any kind of revenue projections based on previous history that they have in other places?
He said it really depends from place to place. He's had some where they do about $500 a month, and he's had other ones that are a little lower and other ones a little higher, but that's about the average.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Lisa?
Yes. Lisa, I certainly have no problem with this, but what I do want to make sure that, I think we put the cart before the horse in this matter. I mean, we don't have the ordinance changed. And first we hear about it, now the machines are setting in place, so we're kind of, again, putting the cart before the horse. I would just ask in the future that changes like this are going to be made. I certainly have no problem with it, but I think we need to make sure we do it legally. We don't want to have a reputation of rewriting our ordinances to fit the situation we've already we've already made. Okay, so I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Other questions for Lisa? Lisa, I think both the equipment and the feeder system look fabulous. I know y'all have been working very hard at the park with limited resources to try to restore it to the jewel it once was, and I can see a difference in the past couple of months. So thank you for all your hard work, and thank your staff for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Now we have a report from the executive director of our staff organization.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm waiting for a picture to come up. As you can see from the screen above, June 1st is our big day in Snellville. Kurt Schultz will sound the horn at 8 a.m. to let everybody know the farmers market is open for business. Gretchen and her committee have been working hard to bring Snellville only the very best. They even have a vendor that will be selling water buffalo this year. Have you ever tried water buffalo? It's supposed to taste a lot like beef, but much lower in cholesterol and fat. As you can see, Gretchen's nutritional background still plays a big role in the market today. There's also going to be another new vendor with a big smoker cooking barbecue sandwiches and containers of barbecue for sale. So we encourage everybody to welcome the market on June 1st at 8 a.m. The market closes at noon. We'll be starting to set up for our second annual beach blast that will run from 2 to 7 p.m. 70 tons of white sand will transform Oak Road and the town green into the beach. Join us for fun in the sun, for great music, fun and games and entertainment. The day is not over yet, though. Our first concert will start rockin' Snellville from 7 to 9 p.m. with Sons of Sailors, a Jimmy Buffett tribute band. We want to thank our presenting concert series sponsor this year, Sam and Chrissy Thomas, who own About Face Skincare in Snellville. And as you can see, our other concerts are July 20th, Banks and Chain, August 24th, the Metro Jazz Club, and on September 28th, we have Excite the Party Band, the Motown Sound. So we've got 4 different genres of music coming, and we're very excited for our concert series this summer. Moving on to our outdoor movies, we also want to thank our presenting sponsors, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, for sponsoring our outdoor movies this summer. Our first movie of the year will be shown on June 15th at Briscoe Park, featuring Ice Age, The Continental Drift. Fun and games will be held from 7 to 9, and the movie will start as soon as it gets dark. As always, we continue to look for new STAT members and new volunteers to join STAT to help us at these events throughout the year. So please visit our website for any additional information at www.snellvillepride.com. And in closure, I just want to say on behalf of the entire STAT board that we send our condolences and prayers to the Breck family. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Kelly. And last but not least, Ms. Johnson, the director of our Public Works Department.
Good evening. Tonight I wanted to acknowledge someone very, very special. He's a young man that lives in our community. His name is McGuire Bird. He's 14 years old, and he goes to Grace Snell Middle School. He was born at Northside, has played goalie for SGAA for 5 years, and secretly, he wishes he lived in Minnesota. Or that Georgia got so cold that he could play ice hockey on the lakes that they would freeze. He's a Life Scout and member of Troop 55 of the Boy Scouts of America from here in Snellville. McGuire is a member of Troop 55, and he came to Public Works looking for a project to do, and he wanted something that involved environmental help or awareness. And so he is taking on the William T. Hornaday Awards program. This program encourages learning by the participants and to increase public awareness for natural resource and conservation. Craig Barton, our maintenance manager, and I suggested maybe the stormwater marker program. This activity is required by our stormwater maintenance program for public education and awareness. We were thinking that McGuire could do some of the markers on our storm drains throughout Snellville. Being the industrious young man that he is, he did the entire city. This means over the course of a year, he placed over 1,200 markers throughout the city in our neighborhoods and used 300 man hours to do this. All of our neighborhoods throughout the city now have drains labeled "Only Rain Down the Drains." McGuire and his dad did the majority of the work, only utilizing some adults and 8 scout members one Saturday. They worked many Saturdays and some weekday evenings. And in talking to his little sister before the meeting tonight, she let me know that she helps her brother a lot also. So I wanted to acknowledge you too. Tonight we want to present him with a certificate of appreciation for all his hard work and let everyone know what a wonderful young person he is. So, McGuire. And that's it for Public Works, other than to say the jet rat truck came in last week. Yay.
McGuire, thank you for what you've done for our community. And for our city manager report, Mr. Sanders is going to postpone that until next time. We have nothing on tonight's consent agenda. Under old business, we have a public hearing. Second reading, CUP 13-03. Consideration action on an application by L&B JL LLC for a conditional use permit for various uses and requests for variances from zoning ordinance for the .28 plus or minus acre former Jiffy Lube property zoned Highway Service Business District located at 2320 Ronald Reagan Parkway, Snellville, Georgia. Mr. Davis, you want to give us some background?
And this is case CUP 13-03. It is a conditional use permit for the Jiffy Lube over on Ronald Reagan Parkway. That building was originally developed in 1995, and it served as the Jiffy Lube until 2005. It's been vacant ever since. The applicant, Buck Stout, had bought the building, and he is trying to get it renovated and leased out to have a viable business there. As he was involved in his leasing activities, he kept coming up with people who would use it as an automotive-based facility, among other things, because that's what it was. And each one of them required a conditional use permit. Rather than wait until he had somebody to lease the building and then apply for a CUP, and they would then be stalled for 2 to 3 months as it went through our process, he had the idea of asking us to give him a conditional use permit for the various things that we normally give conditional use permits for in the HSB districts, which I thought was kind of a smart move on his part. As a staff, we looked at the various conditions that he was looking for, and the variances and the uses broke down sort of like this. The variances basically involved architectural design features that we require currently. And they involved buildings with flat roofs. We didn't allow them anymore, but this building is in good shape. It doesn't need to be completely renovated with a new roof. There are some different setbacks in this area. It's in a shopping center, as you all know. In fact, the parcel is kind of weird. There's the main parcel of 0.24 acres, and then there are 5 parking spaces behind the Verizon store that belong to the parcel. I've never seen anything quite like that. So he needed a little help with minimum yard setbacks. We agreed to that. The building is a stucco building, and we only allow 25% in the front and 50% in the rear on a new building, but the variance would allow him to keep the building in its current materials. The landscaping area, there are no permanent structures allowed within a landscape strip, but there are some existing building enclosures in what is a landscape strip on the site, again, because this is in a shopping center area. It has some strange things to it. The landscape strips need to be planted with a combination of trees, shrubs, and other things. Right now, the landscape around this building is in very good shape. It needs to be cleaned up, it needs to be fixed up. There are some trees that need to come out on the back side that he has agreed to take down and apply new trees in that area. The variances dealt with, or the CUPs dealt with being able to have a general auto repair shop, auto repair loop center, an auto parts store, tire and rim store, limousine or ambulance service, check cashing or financial service businesses, and of course the buffer and landscape ordinances. We looked at most of the uses that were on the request, presented it to the Planning Commission with our recommendation for approval with conditions. They agreed with that and passed it accordingly. The conditions that we placed upon it were that precious metals dealers, pawn shops, pawn brokers, and title pawn establishments would not be allowed. If this became a contractor's office with any kind of outdoor storage of materials, there's a parking area in the back that would have to be fenced off and screened, excuse me, so that the equipment would not be visible. The dumpster enclosure would need to be upgraded to meet current requirements. The landscaping essentially will be reworked a little bit, cleaned, fixed, and some additional planting added to front, side, and rear landscaped areas. We do not allow pylon signs, so signs higher than 15 feet or larger than 225 square feet would be prohibited. Any new signage that goes on this building would be under the current sign ordinance. The traditional Clause 6 uses involving adult entertainment are not allowed. And then Clause 7, any additional non-substantial variances that might come up would be brought through the planning department, and I would be allowed to do administrative variances for things that I consider to be in that non-substantial area. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
Questions for Mr. Davis? Thank you. Is the applicant present? Would you like to say anything?
Buck Stout.
Please state your address for the record.
Yeah, it's 628 Timbercrest Circle, Highland Village, Texas.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. I love Georgia. I've built a lot of buildings here over the years, and just one of my favorite places in Snellville. It's great. And staff is absolutely wonderful. They've really helped us through this, and we're going to make it really pretty, and they've got a palette of colors that we're going to choose from so that it blends with the city, so it's great.
Are you in agreement with all of the conditions?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Is there any public comment either for or against this application? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Is there a motion by council?
I'd like to make a motion, Mayor, that we approve CUP 13-03 with all 7 conditions.
There is a motion by Councilwoman Kraus. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emmanuel. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of CUP, well, let me ask again for the record, you support all the conditions, correct, sir? All those in favor of CUP 13-03 with the conditions as stated by the Planning Department signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. Good luck to you. That brings us then to item number B, which is a first reading on ZOA 13-02. We discussed this in our work session. Do I have a motion to table this first reading?
Motion to table first read.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The item stands tabled. Item number C, public comment, discussion, consideration, action on Summit Chase Lower Lake Dam. Councilman Sabag.
Thank you, Mayor. As we all know, this is a pretty important topic for discussion. At this time, I'd like to withdraw my sponsorship of this line item this evening, as some items need to come to light that have not been received. I thought they would be clear by now. Therefore, I'd like to withdraw my sponsorship of this tonight. And hopefully work with all key individuals and all key parties involved to put this very, very, very important topic on the right path and get it resolved. It needs to be resolved. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Sabag. Now for new business, we have consideration action on an intergovernmental agreement with the Urban Redevelopment Agency. Authorize the mayor to execute the agreement. Mr. Sanders, do you or Mr. Campbell want to give us a report? Or?
I'll go ahead and start. It's a real pleasure to bring this before the mayor and council this evening. Basically, what this intergovernmental agreement does is obligate the city to repay the debt service on the Series 2013 revenue bond issue, which we have discussed, the refunding of the COPs that were issued in 2003 that have been discussed for several months. We have been extremely fortunate market-wise, and I'll let Mr. Camp from Raymond James, who has worked very hard on this project, give you an overview of our savings.
Council, big picture here is you're using some of your funds that were generated from the 2003 transaction, reserve funds, and money on hand to pay debt service, in addition with about $3.5 million of refunding bonds issued by the URA to pay off and defease all your obligation on the 2003 transaction. The term is the same. You're lowering your rate from 4.25% down to 1.55%, and after all costs of issuance, the city is going to realize a benefit on a present value basis of $464,000, which is about 10.8% of the prior principal amount, which is a very high savings figure.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Any questions for Mr. Campbell? Do I have a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Urban Redevelopment Agency and authorize the mayor to sign?
Motion to approve intergovernmental agreement and mayor to sign.
There's a motion by Councilman Emmanuel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Howard. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion as stated signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. Mr. Sanders and Mr. Campbell, thank you for all your hard work. I know this has taken several months, so thank you for hanging in there with us. Item number B, consideration action on approval of the Downtown Development Authority boundary expansion. Do I have a motion to approve the Downtown Development Authority expansion?
So moved.
Actually, point of clarification, is that with a modification of not that neighborhood on Cambridge?
Yes.
Okay. There's a motion to approve the expansion of the DDA boundary without the inclusion of the Cambridge neighborhood. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emmanuel. Any further discussion?
What this is going to do is it's going to give our Downtown Development Authority expanded area. We're taking in a little bit of 78 and 124 from the 78 corridor all the way down to the end of our city. Basically, the Downtown Development Authority works with the business owners in the city and the property owners, the commercial property owners, and of course, a very large amount of our commercial property now is located on Highway 124. So all this does is expand it so that the DDA can work with those property owners to improve the area, help them up financially, and do all the things that the DDA does. So I'm asking my colleagues to support this. Basically, this is going to give the DDA a heads up. And as a sideline, I'd like to say that I've been on the DDA for 3 years. And the last 4 months, what I've seen done by the DDA triples everything that I saw done in the first 2 years. There's a group of people who really want to get the city moving, are dedicated to it, and this is just giving them the tools to do what they need to do. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Witz, would you be willing to amend your motion? I've been handed a resolution. It's 2013-11, resolution by the Mayor and Council of the City of Snellville, Georgia, redesignating and expanding the downtown development area served by the Downtown Development Authority of the City of Snellville. You make a motion to approve that resolution?
Yes, I would.
Councilman Emanuel, would you be willing to second that? Okay. I'm excited to see that there's been progress made by the DDA. Recently, we put 2 appointments on the DDA, Mr. Jack Poles and also Don Goldsmith. I know Mr. Poles is just now getting involved, but I believe Mr. Goldsmith has been a great addition to the DDA. Recently, Mr. Sanders just gave me the financial statements. I believe the DDA has about $95,000 in their accounts, and so I'd like to see them even move forward and do some maybe for facade grants and things like that in this Highway 124 business district. So I wholeheartedly support this, and thank you for working on this, Mayor Pro Tem Witz. Any further discussion?
I just would like to advise everybody to look into the DDA. They're kind of one of those best-kept secrets of Snellville. They have the potential to do a lot of good things to improve the city, and they're starting to get rolling. And I think you all ought to maybe take a look at it and just get a better feel for what the DDA does and what it can do.
Additional comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of Resolution 2013-11 signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, that's 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. Excuse me. Brings us to item number